This is Michael, the host of the WDYM podcast. You ever hear an episode and want to give your 2 cents? Now you have that option with the text and talk. In each episode description up at the top, you see the option for text and talk. Hit that link, start texting, and I'll start talking. Be a part of the WDYM podcast and start text and talking with me.
You're listening to the WDYM, the What Do You Mean podcast, Hamilton's #1 podcast. Now sit back and relax. Here's Hamilton's own Michael Gillespie.
And welcome to the WDYM podcast. I'm your host, Michael Gillespie. Hope all is good. Hope all is well. This episode is an archive episode. This one has slipped through the cracks, so to speak. When I'm recording episode after episode, sometimes I might forget to edit an episode or put an episode out there. And this one was done in July. So instead of leaving it in the archives and just deleting it, I'm going to put it out there because I still think it's an entertaining story. And being in my career where I'm dealing with seniors a lot, you get across some funny stories. One of my highest rated episodes is the one I tell about, being in a rehab center. This is a continuation of it, or part 2, I should say. And I just feel like, if I sat down to record, I need to put it out there and edit. So that's what you're going to get today's episode. You're going to get an archive episode of Tales from a Rehab Center, part 2. Hope you guys enjoy.
You're listening to the WDYM, the What Do You Mean podcast, Hamilton's #1 podcast. Now sit back and relax. Here's Hamilton's own Michael Gillespie.
I just have a quick question. Before we start the show, who are you voting for? Who are you voting for? We're screwed. No matter what we do, we as Americans are so screwed with our choices. 2 choices. Oh, man. We'll get into that today a little bit. Not in depth, just a little bit on the surface right now because it's freaking July. And it's too early to get into that, but eventually I will. Welcome to the WDYM podcast. I'm your host, Michael Gillespie. Hope everything's good. Hope everything is well with you. And yeah, we just had a debate with the 45th and 46th president. And it's like the worst choice ever. It's almost like, hey, do you want to die by fire or do you want to drown? It's like, how about neither? I don't want to die either way by that. But it's like, that's the worst. This is the worst choice I have seen in a long time. I mean, every other election, you always like, okay, I favor this person or I favor that person. Honestly, who are you favoring for this one? You got one that just constantly lies about everything. And you got one that he probably forgot where he was during the first debate. It's like, it's terrible. I cannot imagine giving anybody just 2 choices. Hey, you want to eat something? Yeah. Well, guess what? You get crackers or water. Which one? It's like, dang, for real? And this is what we in 2024 are getting ready to face in November or something. So yeah, hopefully there's some kind of miracle that happens because both these choices are absolutely terrible. We're screwed. We are screwed. But this has been an ongoing problem forever. Yeah, there is a video of, who is that guy? Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is a U.S. Senator since 1985. The man is 82 years old. And there's this press conference where he's talking, well, it is... and he freezes like someone needs to push his reset button. But this is the problem with all our political stuff. We have people in there that's in their 80s, and it's like, who in their right mind will listen to anybody in their 70s and 80s? We need change fast. Age limits need to be ASAP, as soon as possible, because it's ridiculous. This dude, Mitch McConnell's been in there since 1985. That's a problem. That is an absolute problem. Let me ask you this question. Would you listen to an 82-year-old man? Would you listen to an 81-year-old man? Would you listen to a 78-year-old man? Not on purpose. Not on purpose, man. We got some issues politically, and hopefully it clears up before the general election in November. The main topic for today is kind of rides with the idea of the presidential talk I just had. Since I'm no longer with my previous company, I'm going to tell one more story from the rehab. Tales from the Rehab Part 2, or the finale, however you want to see it. I'm going to tell these last 4 stories that I remember, that I recall. Doing these stories, talking about the residents that we have at the rehab center, are absolutely hilarious. In my book, in my opinion. Since I'm no longer there, I could go ahead and just go into it a little more extensively. Again, I will respect the rules that was set. But yeah. So I have 5 stories for you from Tales of the Rehab, the finale. So without further ado, let's get into it. The number one, the first story. Number one was, we had this one gentleman. He's been there a couple times. I remember him coming in and out 2 to 3 times. When at this certain age in their life, they had their wants and needs and everything. And I rightfully understand. This guy, he wanted Coca-Cola. He wanted Coca-Cola all the time. 2 for breakfast, 2 for lunch, and 2 for dinner. Mind you, and then in the middle, he wanted, the aides to bring him a Coke. So I'm looking at the tickets and I recognize the name. For this one, we'll call him Dino. Dino always wanted these Cokes. And I'm like, man, we're gonna kill this person. This guy is asking for nothing but Coke, not Diet Coke. And I was getting Coke Zero and 2. No, none of that. He wanted the old school Coca-Cola. He wanted the Coca-Cola. I said, okay. All right. So I went to go visit him and I noticed some of his leg was missing. I said, okay, that means you already have an issue with your sugars to a point where you can't walk out of here no more. You are permanently wheelchair bound. And I'm like, come on, this is it's ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Like, why do you want all these Cokes? He says, listen, sir, listen, I'm a veteran and I'm this age and I just want my Cokes. I said, first off, thank you for your service. Because of you, I couldn't have done what I've done. I'm a veteran too, right? He said, oh, you are? I said, yeah. He said, what branch? I said, the best branch ever, United States Air Force. Don't even trip. So he's like, yeah, I'm Army. He's like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I'm like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I said, I'm going to give you your Cokes, but I'm not going to give you a full cup of Coke. He's like, you better give me a full cup of Coke. I said, I'm not going to give you a full cup of Coke. Well, then I want to talk to your supervisor. I said, you want to talk to my supervisor? And I was slick with this. I say, you want to talk to my supervisor in the building? He said, yeah. I said, okay, I'll be right back. So I left and I come back. Like, guess what? I'm the supervisor of this building and I'm going to bring you your 2 Cokes. And I'm going to fill it up to the line right here. All right. So, okay. So the first day we having this problem and I put a crap ton of ice in it. I put so much ice in there, it was at the top, and filled it up with Coke. Didn't get no complaints. I'm like, all right, cool. So I did that for a couple days. So he's getting, these cups were 9 ounces of liquid. He had over 12 ounces of ice. So I was like, yeah, this is perfect. I'm icing it up. He's not complaining and all that stuff. Well, here's the problem. When he would ask for the A's for the cup, my cups were 16 ounces of styrofoam cups. And he would get a whole bunch of Coke. So I'm like, oh man, we're not doing our job. And this is the thing that I always say. Like, I would always go to nursing and tell them, hey, we're here to make them better. Giving them all this Coke is not helping them. Like, this is not cool. And then I would always talk to the head nurse. She would always say, well, Michael, we have to give them what they want. I said, but do we though? She's like, yeah, we're nurses and we gotta give them what they want, even if it's against their own will. I'm like, this is, or even if it's what they want is bad for their body, we have to give it to them. I never understood that. I never understood that notion where we have to give them something that is bad for them. You know, it's always in quantity. You know, you give them 1 piece of bacon or 2 pieces of bacon, but 6 pieces of bacon, come on now. That's the problem that I always had. And me and the nurse, we would always go back and forth, but I'd do what she said. So the Coke problem with this guy, he was like, and it's like, this doesn't make sense. So I'm trying to fight this, right? I'm trying to fight this to the best of my ability. I'm like, so I'm talking to everybody, like, this man cannot be in his right mind because he's getting, if I do the math, he's getting 36 ounces of Coke from me a day. Not counting the 16 ounces of Coke he gets from the AIDS. Like, this man is going to turn black because he's drinking so much Coke. No. So I'm like, this dude cannot be in his right mind. He's drinking over 50, 60 ounces of Coke. I'm like, he's not in his right mind. I was like, this dude is crazy. That's what I said. He's crazy. Going back to that nurse, he's crazy. It's like, well, Michael, he passed his BIMS test. I said, BIMS test? So what is a BIMS test? Ladies and gentlemen, there's a test you get when you first enter a facility. It's called a BIMS test. Let me tell you what's on a BIMS test. Stand by. All right, BIMS test. Here's question 1 of a BIMS test. Ask a resident. I am going to say 3 words for you to remember. Please repeat the words after I say all 3. The words are sock, blue, and bed. Now tell me the 3 words. Can easily off the top. So this person is supposed to name 2 out of 3 words. Sock, blue, bed. If you get that, boom. You get 1 question right. After the resident's first attempt, repeat the word using cues. Like you said, like, what was the word? Okay, you said rock, but if you put an S, what would it be? And then he can say, sock, bing, bing, bing. He passed the BIMS test, question 1. The next question, please tell me what year it is right now. You can miss this by 2 to 5 years. If you miss this by 5 years, or you get it correct, you pass the BIMS test. What month is right now? You get that? You get all the Coke you want. Give me the correct day of the week. If you get that, you get all the Coke you want. This is the parameter that we used to make sure these residents had the right mind. It was absolutely bonkers.
Fat.
It was like this.
Cat. Sat.
He's getting them all wrong, right?
Hat.
Hat.
Fat.
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 Getting them all wrong.
Cat.
Cat. Sat.
Sat.
Sat. Hat.
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 Now, as soon as you say, hey, sir, if you don't pass this BIM test, you don't get your Coke. Guess what the resident would do?
The fat cat sat on a hat, saw a rat on the mat, got a bad hat and chat with a gnat that he'd pat in a vat that was flat. Oh, yeah! Oh, yeah.
He's getting his Coke. He's getting his Coke. As soon as he did that, he is getting his Coke. You couldn't do that. It's weird that we use this as a measurement to see if they're crazy or sane. I'm sorry. See if they're sane. So basically, I was forced to give this man all the Coke he wanted. Weird. So what I did, his son came in and I snitched on his ass. I don't care. I snitched right on him and said, look, do you realize your dad is drinking almost 60 ounces of Coke a day? He said, Dad, what are you doing? And all he did was just sit there like wiggle his, like, you know, move his thumbs around and stuff. He's like, well, I want what I want. He said, you know what, Dad? You're drinking 1 Coke and 1 water. He said, can you do that, Chef? 1 Coke and 1 water. I said, absolutely. And I did that. BIMS test. We actually used that to see how competent they are. Another guest we had. We had this one lady. Oh my God. We had this one lady, right? She was like the 5th golden girl, if you will. She When she came in, she set her whole room up like it was her house and everything. Had bottles and smell goods and everything. I swear, every time I went into her room, it smelled like the 1980s and what I thought what the Golden Girls house would smell like. It was unbelievable how, and she even had the poofy hair and everything like straight from the 80s. Like once 1989 stopped, so did she. She did not go past the 90s and everything. And the funny thing about her, it was like I would come in, she came maybe 2 or 3 times, and she's like, she would come in and I would knock on doors like, hey, guest services or whatever I used to say back then. I don't remember. Dining facility, I don't know, something. I used to guest services. She's like, you can come on in. I said, well, I have your food. Because, when you talk, you got to talk slow and all upbeat. I got your food, Miss Johnson. I just made the name up. I don't remember her real name. She's like, well, you can just call me Delicious. Just for jokes and purposes, she said, call me Delicious. I said, first off, ma'am, I will never call any woman Delicious, okay? Just for this story, her name was Delicious. I said, ma'am, I will never, but you can't. But she's like, I will never call any woman Delicious. She said, but you can call me Delicious. I said, absolutely not. I'm going to keep calling you Miss Johnson for the rest of your time. I'm going to do it to spite you. I can't believe she thought I would call her Miss Delicious and stuff like that. Absolutely not. And if you stuck in the 1980s, there ain't no way. She had perfume, had to have perfume from the 1980s that she kept bottles of. She must have had a stash of whatever smelled good back in the 1980s, because she had that room smelling like the Golden Girls. That's exactly what I remember the Golden Girls would smell like. That's what I thought the Golden Girls house smelled like. It just had to smell like that. It just, ooh. Lo and behold, she was watching Golden Girls too. She would always, like, every time she see me, she's like, hey, hi Michael, it's me, Delicious. Like, I ain't calling you Delicious. So, hey, Miss Johnson, how you doing? So, but you can call me Delicious. And now, the audacity. That makes me want to throw up a little bit. She had the audacity to say that. That was disgusting. Yeah, she said, call me Delicious. Never, ever, ever. Another thing. At a rehab facility, you practice rehabilitation, right? Like, you practice walking and you practice, doing things you do at home, right? Not here at this facility. We fed these people in their rooms. Now, it used to be back in the day, you only ate in your room if you were sick. If you were sick and you were just physically unable to come out to the dining room, then yes, you got your tray delivered to you. Since we had COVID, we never went back to people coming down. Nobody came down. The only time people came down was when our activities person, Miss Cindy, she would go ask these people, hey, do you want to come down and socialize and meet and greet other people, other residents that's here? And people would be like, yeah. And we used to have we would get at least 12. We were not equipped to do that because we were still delivering. So it was really a weird situation how to keep somebody back to feed the people that came out and then still deliver trays and everything. This was the ongoing fight because nursing was supposed to bring down people. And they wouldn't. We had DONs after DONs after DONs come in and come by. And like in my time there, I had roughly 4 DONs in my facility. It never worked. And the only time it worked again was when Cindy would go get them. Any other time they wouldn't come down. It was just impossible, right? And then here's the kicker to it. They would complain about the food. Like one guy, oh my God, this one guy, we absolutely refused. He would complain that his food was cold. So one of the servers come up and say, Mike, you gotta go to his room. He wants to talk to the person in charge. I'm like, all right, cool. So I would go to his room and he would act like he was angry. He would have the audacity to be angry with me. He would slam something down like that and be like, I can't understand why my food is cold. So I just got all like a co-host. Like, well, come on down. Guess what? If you come down to the dining room, you get your food hot. And you also, you know what? You can get refills, you can get seconds, and you can get whatever you want if you come on down. You know how many times I had to pitch that to people? I pitched that just like that. If I had the music back then, I would have played this as I was coming to the room. So back to this guy, I said, sir, if you would come on down, you wouldn't have this problem. And he was like, well, last time I was here, I didn't have this problem. I said, I'm sorry that you're having this problem now, but if you come on down, you can come get the hottest food that I'm providing here, and refills and bread, all you want. Only if you come on down. But they were stubborn. They were stubborn so bad that they just refused. And it's like, I'm like, sir, this is a rehab facility. I'm like, sir, do you eat in your bed at home? He said, well, no. I said, okay, you are at a rehab facility. You need to practice rehabilitation. Like, for example, you need to practice rehabilitation so when you go home, you're ready and you won't slip and fall. Okay? You've been walking and you've been doing all this. And guess what? You don't eat in your bed because you have to get up and cook and everything. So if you just come on down, you will be practicing your own rehab. And no matter how much sense that made, it didn't work. After Miss Cindy like basically quit because she was the only one doing it, and there was email sent out saying, hey, city's not supposed to be doing this, and none of the nurses were helping. It's like, what the heck are we supposed to do? So let it be known that nobody. The last story. Now this one I have seen in multiple locations. I've worked at hospitals, I've worked at senior facilities, I've worked at rehab places. The last one is the most weirdest one possible. When I used to work at the hospital, we had a specific floor for the cuckoos, for the crazy people, right? This one, he just laid in his bed, like just feet, like he laid straight in his bed. He's not turned to his side or anything. And the rare few times I had to deliver up there, I would wave and just, say hi briefly, as brief as possible, and then keep it moving. Right? That's what it was for me. I just didn't like being in there. So this one guy I'm making an example of back in my hospital days. He was cool. He was actually like just chilling. Like, yeah, I had an episode. I'm not crazy. I just had an episode. I said, okay, that's cool. But he had brown on his lips. Like, what's the brown for? He's like, man, I just ate my own doo-doo. It's cool. I said, what'd you say? He said, I ate my own douh-doo. Okay. I said, all right, man. That's when I had to get out of there. Cause that's beyond crazy. I couldn't do it. So come back to the rehab center. I had two of them within a span of a month and a half. The first guy I remember, he was just screaming. He was just screaming in his room. Ah, ah. I'm like, what's going on? And when he first came out, I'm like, welcome to my facility. I'm the chef here. I just want to know some of the things you like to eat. So he's still screaming. Ah, ah. I'm trying to be patient. Like, hey, sir, I just need to know what you like to eat. He's just still screaming. Ah, ah. And I give up. I left. I said, I give up. I can't handle this guy right now because he's just screaming all day. I ain't got time for that. I ain't doing that. Right. So I would come back, and now he's screaming. He has his whole hand all the way up to the knuckles in his mouth. He's got just go ahead and do it real quick. Oh, that's how he's screaming. And he's screaming so loud you can hear it in the hallway. Ooh, ooh. Like, what is this problem? Like, this is scaring, this is freaking me out. I'm not built for this. I'm here to cook food and be nice to people. But it's got this man screaming his lungs out. Oh, oh. I'm like, sir, what's your problem? So nobody answered. He didn't answer me. He was on autopilot, which means whatever special we had, that's what he's getting. He ain't communicating. You getting the special. I'm not playing. I'm done playing games with him. Right? So eventually he would calm down. He would calm down a couple days and all that stuff. started eating some real food, and like then he started, talking and stuff. So I'm like, sir, you realize you came in screaming? He said, yeah, man, I was having issues. Okay, I said, yeah, you having issues? Why aren't you in the psych ward? Why are you here at a rehab facility? He said, I don't know why I'm here. I'm just here. I said, okay, cool. Well, I'm like, since I didn't get to talk to you before, I was like, well, what do you like? What do you like? He said, what do I like? I like my own doo-doo, baby. I said, ugh. And then I walked out. I said, he is on autopilot for the rest of his time here. We ain't going in this room. We just dropping off at the nurse's station. And then we heading out. We ain't playing. Like, he's just playing with me. I think he was playing with me, to be honest with you. So that was one doo-doo man. The second doo-doo man. The second one. Oh my God. Okay, so the second doo-doo man had his room on absolute blast. Now, normally with old folks, they like to keep their room hot. It's either they extremely cold all the time and they like it hot. And this guy, he was a doo-doo man, and he was thirsty all the time. He's like, I need something to drink. And so we would drop off trays, and when patients first come in, I try to be like the first person to drop off the tray to basically see how crazy they are, if they crazy or not. So I go in here and he's like, hey, I drop off his tray. He's like, hey, do you mind getting me some water? I said, okay, fine. Where's your cup at? Okay. So he's like, my cup's, he points at my cup's over there. I look at his cup. It has hair, Vaseline, and some brown speckles. I don't know what those brown speckles are. I look at the cup. I'm like, okay. I'm looking at the cup. I'm like, okay, this is, So, okay, this is going to be a rough one because I'm assuming, like, what's the brown speckles? What is the brown speckles? I don't know what the brown speckles are, but I don't want to touch his cup. So I'm like, all right, I'll be right back. So I leave, and I ask the nurses and the A's, like, hey, what's going on with room 202? I don't remember the numbers. Remember 202? He's got it's just hot in there, and there's Vaseline, some kind of stuff everywhere. I'm nervous. Why am I going in there? He said, oh, he a doo-doo man. I said, he a doo-doo man. He eats a doo-doo too. He said, yeah. So I'm assuming the brown speckles on the cup is doo-doo. They said, no, that's his skin. I said, ooh, Lord and Jesus, save us all. I said, okay. So he said, when you go in there, you better have gloves on, mask on, everything on when you go in there, because I don't know what's going on. I said, man, thank you so much for telling me this information. So the next time I go in there at lunchtime, and the thing about it was, this guy, he came off very intelligent. He seemed very smart. He's having a conversation. He's like, oh yeah, I would really like that. He's like, yeah, could you mind putting blueberries in my pancakes? I said, I could do that. No problem. We're having a nice conversation, like back and forth. He didn't fill out his menus, but like whatever. That was the problem with mostly everybody. So eventually he would always ask for, like, can you refill my water? And then I would be gloved up all the way to my elbows. Like, I can't believe I'm about to touch this dude's cup because that's supposed to be skin and hair and some kind of Vaseline. Like, what's going on here? So I would go get his water. After I drop off his tray, I'll go get the water, ice and everything. Come back, and then lo and behold, he didn't have blueberry pancakes on his mouth. He had the brown speckles, the brown smits on his face. I said, man, sir, are you eating? This is the thing. I'm like, sir? I said, are you eating your own doodle? He's like, no, this is brownie. No, I got a package of brownies over there. And I look over the brownies. He did have brownies. He legit had brownies over there. However, he was down to his last two, and there was no way he could reach over there, grab the brownie, eat it, and smear it all over his face. So I'm like, okay, sir. So safe to say, I didn't deliver to his room much too often because no doubt about it, he was eating his own doo-doo. And that's the problem. Like, that's the problem. When men do come into a rehab facility, I know why we don't live as long as women, because 80% of the population of residents that came in were women. But us men, we over here eating our own boo-boo and stuff. So that is the most disturbing thing I got. when it comes to the rehab center. So, yeah, that's it. That's the last time, hopefully, I talk about the rehab center. Gotta get that out of my system because that stuff was nasty. A doodoo man? Said I'm a doodoo man, baby. I said, oh, shit. That's nasty. I'm your host, Michael Gillespie of the WDYM. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will see you guys later on. Peace out, Girl Scout, Boy Scout. Peace. Doodoo man.